the last part of section 2.7. Let me switch this stuff around right here. Go yellow. Alright, what we're going to do now, we're still doing inequalities, okay, just like we were before, but now you have a fraction in here, and this makes it a little bit tougher. But let's see what we have. Alright, here we go. Let's give this a shot. We're going to solve, and this is going to be an inequality. It's going to be 5 over x plus 4 is greater than or equal to 1. Alright, here's what we're going to do first of all. First of all, we want a 0 on this side. Remember all those other inequalities that we did? We always had it greater than 0, less than 0, whatever. Okay, so we always want a 0 on the right-hand side. So that means I'm going to have to take this and move it to the left-hand side. Agreed? So that means I have to subtract a 1. Well, it's not just as easy as just subtracting a 1 and getting 4 over x plus 4. You can't do that, can you? Because you got a denominator here. So let's do this. This is 5 over x plus 4. Now, if we subtract a 1, that's going to become a 0, correct? But if I subtract a 1 from here, what am I going to have to write it as? No, it's not 1 over x plus 4. That's not a 1. Okay, 1 over 1, but that's still not going to help us subtract them from each other. Exactly, you got it. X plus 4 over x plus 4. Isn't that a 1? Why did I choose x plus 4? Was that just out of the blue? No, because you had a common denominator, right? You had a denominator here of x plus 4, so this is going to have a denominator of x plus 4. Got it? And that's greater than or equal to 0. Now, you're subtracting not just the x, but the x plus 4. Agreed? So you got to remember this. Right? We've done that plenty of times. People still forget after I remind them over and over and over again. So make sure if you're subtracting a sum that you put that sum in parentheses. Got it? Let's see what we get now. So it's going to be 5 minus x minus 4, isn't it? Because I distribute that negative through both of those. And that's over what? Just x plus 4, because that's a common denominator. Now look, does that x cancel with this x and this 4 cancels with this 4? No, it doesn't, because this is a sum. Alright, all this stuff is being added up here, all this stuff's being added down here. You can't cancel stuff out like that, only if it was being multiplied. So really, the only thing I can do right now is just simplify this. So 5 minus 4 is 1. So it's 1 minus x over x plus 4. Is greater than or equal to 0. So there you go. We had to do all that before you even start working this problem. We haven't even really started working this problem yet. Okay, the only thing we did is we got the right side to be 0. Right? We just subtracted a 1. All that was just subtracting 1. Got it? Then we had to simplify and all that, but that shouldn't be that big of a deal. That's some basic algebra stuff. That's not that huge. Now, here's the deal. We want to find out what's going to, this thing right here, what x value is going to make this thing on the left greater than or equal to 0. So let's think about fractions for a second. Well, first of all, what is greater than 0? What kind of a number is greater than 0? So if I had a fraction and it was to equal a positive number, let's just think signs right now. What over what is going to give me a positive number? Yeah, I probably would have started positive over positive. That's okay. That's fine, you're still right. But watch, positive over positive is positive, isn't it? Okay, and what's my other option? Negative over negative is also positive. Do you agree? So what I want to do, this whole thing right here has to be greater than 0. Agreed? So what am I going to do? I'm going to take this top and set it greater than or equal to 0. Excuse me, I'm going to take the bottom and set it greater than or equal to 0. Do you remember when we did the product? We set the two products equal. Remember this? If I said like x plus 3, x plus 5, we just finished doing that, didn't we? Right? Is equal to 0. So what did I do? I set this equal to 0, I got x equals negative 3, didn't I? And I said x plus 5 equal to 0, I got x is equal to negative 5. I'm going to kind of do the same thing right here. So what I'm going to do is set them both equal to 0. So let's take the top, make sure, yep. Let's take the top and set that equal to 0. So 1 minus x equals 0. See why I put it equal to 0? Because remember, we're going to do that number line. Going to figure out a couple places on the number line where this is equal to 0. You got it? So I'm going to set that equal to 0. I'll do that in a second. And then what else do I set equal to 0? At the bottom, right, x plus 4, and set that equal to 0. It's very similar to this, except these two things are being multiplied, right? We still set them both equal to 0. It just happens that these things are being divided. But we still set the top equal to 0 and the bottom equal to 0. Now we solve for x. So what would x equal right here? Add an x to both sides. X equals what? Right here? 4? Come on, think. That right there. X can't be 4 right there. Add an x to this side. Look, add an x to get rid of it. Add an x over here. What's x equal to? It's 1. I thought you said 4. Oh, it sounded like you said 4. It sounded like you said 4. I thought for sure you said 4. That's why I acted surprised that you said 4, because I was like, where did you get 4 from right there? Okay, what about this one? This is still not 4. What's x equal to right here? It's negative 4. All right? So, is that my answer? Do I quit? Do I circle those? Am I done? No. What I'm going to do is draw a number line, okay, and do that number line thing. Let's go to a different color. Okay, negative 4 will go right here, and positive 1 will go right here. Okay? This is very similar to what we did before. That's why it's all part of that same worksheet, right? Both of these problems, because they're very, very close to each other. Which numbers are we going to pick? Actually, remember what we're using. We're up here, aren't we? So,
zero's in the middle.
Yep, zero's in between here. So let's put a 0 in for this thing right here. We're putting a 0 in for this. See how it's in a box? Put a 0 in for that. So 1 minus 0 is 1. It's a positive 1, isn't it? That's really what I care about. I don't really care about what the number comes out to be. I just care if it's positive or negative. Remember this stuff right here? That's going to come into play here in a second. All right. So if I put a 0, the top becomes positive. If I put a 0 in for this, 0 plus 4 is positive 4. What's positive over positive? So any number that I pick in between negative 4 and 1 is going to give you what kind of an answer? It's going to give you a positive answer, isn't it? Okay. Let's try a number to the right and try a number to the left. All right. So give me a nice easy number to the right of 1. 2 would be easy. Let's put that in here. I'll tell you what, I'll get rid of this. I'll just put that little stuff up here. So what are we putting in? A 2? 1 minus 2. What's 1 minus 2? It's negative 1. Again, I really don't care about the 1. I care that the top's going to be negative. Follow me? Let's put a 2 in for this right here. 2 plus 4 is 6, which is positive 6. Again, I don't even care about the 1 and the 6. I care about the signs. What is negative divided by positive? What is it? It's negative, isn't it? So that means if I picked 2 and it came out negative, if this fraction came out negative, then any number to the right of 1 is going to come out to what? To negative. All right? Getting the hang of it now? Let's try a number to the left of negative 5. Sorry, I gave it away. I was thinking ahead. To the left of negative 4, which would be what? Negative 5. I could pick any number to the left of negative 4 if I wanted to. I'm just picking the smallest number just to make it as easy as I can on myself, okay? So let's pick negative 5. So 1 minus negative 5. What's minus a negative? It's positive, right? So that would be what? 1 plus 5 is positive 6. Watch, I'm not even going to put the 6 there. I don't care about the 6. I just care that it was what? Positive. Okay? Let's put a negative 5 in for the bottom. Negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. Again, the sign is negative. What's positive over negative? It's negative, isn't it? So there you go. Watch. All the numbers to the right of 1 are going to come out negative. All the numbers to the left of negative 4 are going to come out negative. Only the numbers between negative 4 and 1 will come out positive. Which ones am I concerned about? Am I trying to find the negatives or the positive? How do you know the positive? Because it's greater than or equal to 0, okay? You with me on this? Now, here's the thing. Let me write the answer down like we think we should write it. Okay, but there's a little bit of a twist to this, I believe. Yes. I'll tell you what, let's go back to yellow. Sorry. I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. Let's graph the thing. So what would it be? It's everything between -4 and +1. Agreed? It's greater than, so what would you think you would put here? Probably put a bracket. But, and it would be everything in between, right? So your shading would be everything in between all this. Got it? Little problem with this, though. What if x was, this says x could equal -4, couldn't it? But look at this. If x actually did equal -4, what would the bottom be? It would be 0. Can you take a number and divide by 0? It's undefined, isn't it? Okay, any number that is, for instance, let's put the -4 in here. So what's 1 minus -4? It's +5, isn't it? Over, put the -4 in here, -4 plus 4 is 0. What's 5 divided by 0? It's undefined, isn't it? It doesn't exist. So can I include, this bracket means I'm including -4, right? Am I allowed to include -4? No, why not? Because it makes this thing not exist, basically. All right, so I cannot make this a bracket. So what's the only way to get around it? Make it a parentheses, exactly right. What does that mean? That means all the numbers between -4 and 1. I can include 1. 1's fine, right? 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 over 5, right, is 0. That's fine. I can have that. I can't include -4, though. That's where it gets a little tricky on these fractions. You got to make sure that those numbers on the end, if I put it in for that denominator, that you don't get a 0. You're not allowed to get a 0 in the denominator. You okay with that? All right, so make sure you understand that. That's the tricky part. It's a little bit tricky, that, because you don't really think about that much. You just want to go through a series of steps and get it done. But you got to look back on it to make sure that stuff makes any sense at all. All right. Let's put the answer in. So how do I write the answer in that interval notation? I'll put a parentheses. It looks just like the graph, doesn't it? So what is it? It goes from -4 to what? +1, and it's a bracket at +1. Because I am allowed to include 1 as my answer. Because I can put a 1 in for x here and here, right? And I still get a fine answer. The only thing I can't put in, as far as these endpoints are concerned, is a -4. Because -4 plus 4 is 0. I cannot divide by 0. Alright, I think I've beat that to death. And that would be your answer right there. So that's how you do that kind of thing. Alright? It's a series of steps. What if what? What if x is... Well, then you just subtract a 5x from both sides. Remember, the right side has to be 0. So if you have something over here on the right side that's not a 0, because it was a 1 right there, right? You got to subtract it. So even if it's an x, even if it has an x term, you'd still would subtract it from both sides. Okay? And you got to find a common denominator and all that good stuff. All right? I know that's everybody's favorite thing to do. All right, we got a few minutes here, so let's do one more problem. All right? Kind of like this green. We'll stick with this for one. I'm going to do one that's in the example in the book. Alright, so 2x minus 1. And I would guess that most of the ones on that worksheet I gave you are pretty much like the one in the book. Alright, here you go. Well, first of all, what about this do we need to change? That 5. I need to subtract a 5 from both sides, correct? So watch. I'll keep this over here just like it was. And what do I have to do? I got to subtract a 5. But do I just put subtract 5? Is that what I want to do? You could put 5 over 1, but let's think ahead a little bit. 5, what's the common denominator? It's 3x plus 4. So how do I do this? I just put 3x plus 4. Isn't that the same as just subtracting a 5? It is, isn't it? Because 3x plus 4 over 3x plus 4 just goes to a 1. 5 over 1, yeah, that's exactly the same thing. Why did I pick 3x plus 4? Did I just pick that out of the blue? Of course not. Found a common denominator. Okay. And what's this less than what? 0, because I subtracted a 5 from both sides, didn't I? Okay. Let's clean this up a little bit. My common denominator is going to be 3x plus 4. I'll just leave that the way it is. And let's do this. I've got 2x minus 1. Now look what I have to do. I've got to distribute. This is a negative 5 now, isn't it? I have to distribute that negative 5 through here. So I get negative 15x, what? Negative 20. Good. Minus 20 is less than 0. Let's clean it up. We're almost ready to start working with this, okay? All we're doing right now is just setting the thing up. We're really not even solving yet, are we? Just setting it up. So let's add some like terms. 2x minus 15x is negative, I'll tell you what, let's put this over here. Negative 13x. Agreed? Negative 1 minus 20 is negative 21. And that's all over 3x plus 4. And that's less than 0. This is what we're working with right there. Alright? So all that work just to get the right side to be 0. Really, in effect, it's the only thing that we did. We just subtracted 5 from both sides, didn't we? Okay, that was a long subtracting 5, but you get the idea. Now what do we do? These two things are dividing, so we want to set them both equal to 0. That's right. So we set them both equal to 0. So negative 13x minus 21 equals 0. Then come over here, and 3x plus 4 equals 0. And now you just solve for x. It's not that big of a deal. Negative 13x equals positive 21. Divide by negative 13. There's x right there. Let's write it real nice and pretty. Negative 21 over 13. So that's one solution for x. If you want to, we can write it as a mixed number because we're going to put it on a number line. So it would be kind of nice to know where it fits on our number line. So what would that be? Negative 1 and, what is that, 8/13? Is that right? And I don't have to be real specific where 8/13 is, do I? I just know it's going to be somewhere between, what, negative 1 and negative 2, right? So that's all I care about. What about this? Subtract a 4, 3x equals negative 4, divide by 3. So x is, I'll write it right here. Next, x is negative 4/3. Let's write that as a mixed number. That would be negative 1 and what? 1/3. Okay? Alright, so now what we're going to do, so now we know what our x terms are. Tell you what, let's rewrite, since I'm kind of running out of room. Tell you, I'll just copy and paste this. This is the beauty of using this program. Right there. Right there. Good. So isn't that nice? I didn't have to rewrite it again. Okay. So what are we going to do? We're going to make a number line here, aren't we? Let's make this a different color. Let's make a nice number line. And we're going to put these two numbers on that number line. Which one's smaller? A third, 8. This is yeah, this is actually this is smaller, isn't it? If you're not really sure about it, what can you do? Plug it in a calculator. Let's get a calculator up. All right, just to make sure we know which one's smaller and which one's bigger, let's just plug the numbers in. So let's put just 8 over 13. 8 over 13 is 0.6. Well, I know what 1/3 is, don't you? What is 1/3? It's 0.3, right? So negative 1.6, let's write it like this. Negative 1.6, and this would be negative 1.3, which is the smaller of the two numbers. What? I can't hear you. No. Right. Negative 1.6 is smaller because we're going to the left, right? Okay. So negative 1.6 is smaller. So I'm going to actually, we can write it like this. That's the 1.6, agreed? And this would be negative 1 1/3. These numbers really don't bother me that much because really I'm not even looking for these particular numbers. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to find the numbers in between, right? So I can pick nice easy numbers. I don't have to pick 1 and 8/13 to plug back in. That would be terrible, wouldn't it? So I'm just picking just nice little round numbers, okay, on either of these sides. What's the easiest number to choose? 0 would be the easiest number to choose, I think. So where is 0? Is 0 in the middle of these two? It's to the right, to the right, to the right. Okay, sorry. Okay, so let's put a 0. A 0 in for what? A 0 in for this thing, right? Yes, put a 0 in for this and see what we get. So negative 13 times 0 is 0. Minus 21 is negative. Agreed? I don't even care what the number is. Just makes it easy. Put a 0 in for this. Why are we packing up? We've got 5 minutes left. 3 times 0 is 0. Plus 4 is positive 4, which is positive. What's a negative divided by a positive? It's a negative. So any number to the right of negative 1 1/3 is going to give me what kind of a number? It's going to give me a negative number. What am I looking for? I'm looking for negative numbers, aren't I? All right. Now look, just to make sure, now I pretty much have an idea of how this is going to go, don't I? This is going to be negative, this will probably be positive, this will be negative. But let's just double check and make sure, all right? I'm not even going to pick one in between here. Let's just pick one over here. What's a number, an easy number just to the left of negative 1? Negative 2 would work, wouldn't it? So negative 13 times negative 2 would be what? Positive 26. Positive 26 minus 21 would give you a positive answer, wouldn't it? Again, I don't even care that it's 5. I just care that it's positive. Let's put that negative 2 in for the bottom. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 4 is going to give me a negative number, isn't it? All right? So what's a positive divided by a negative? It's negative, so that means everything over here is going to be negative. So what do you think is going to be here? It's going to be positive. That's right.
You can never have 3 across.
Well, that would mean every single answer would work. It means every single possible answer would work for x. I guess there is a situation that you could have that. I can't think of one off the top of my head. If I gave me a few minutes, I probably could. But I doubt they're going to have that on any of these questions. So basically, what is our answer now? Now remember, 3x plus 4, which one was the 3x plus 4? This one right here. Okay, so can x, now it doesn't even say or equal to anyway, so I don't even have to worry about that, do I? Remember that? Okay, so I don't even have to worry about whether it equals or not, because I know it doesn't equal. This doesn't equal 0 because it just says it's less than 0. So where's my answer then? My answer are all the what? All the negatives. So it's everything in that direction, right? And it's everything in this direction. So let's write that out. It's negative infinity to negative 1 8/13. What was the what was this? It was this, 21/13. Let's use that. All right, it's just a little cleaner if we use that. Negative 21/13. Parentheses on both of them, right? Because there's always one at infinity, and there's one here at this number because it just says less than. Okay, union with what? Negative 1 1/3. What was negative 1 1/3? Negative 4/3, right? All the way to infinity. Close on both, and there you go. Crazy looking answer, but that's what it is, and that's how you want to write it. We good with that? All right, now you should be able to finish that worksheet 6 to 10. So we're doing 6 to 10. The problems are pretty much like the one we just did, and it's section 27B is the worksheet. All right, have that finished for tomorrow. You'll be good to go. Have a seat till the bell rings, please.